Millennials particularly
Mhm.
will say they want everything and they want it now. Okay, they want instant gratification. There's a psychological difference, and for investing, that is a very, 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 it's polar opposites with the boomers. And so when you're taking an asset from a boomer, it's going on to another generation. This is another reason why it's just frivolously thrown away. Now, the reason I brought up baby boomers because there's an issue at the moment with the transfer of wealth. Do you want to go into that, Derek?
It's an interesting one because right now we are seeing a wealth transfer play out. I've been talking about this, but it's on a couple of fronts. Let's deal with this front at the moment. The baby boomers are in a situation where they are, passing on that passing away.
Yes.
And we've got another generation who's inheriting that. And you can imagine how that plays out. Now, can you imagine a baby boomer who's passed away has quite a big stock portfolio?
Sure.
For example, right?
Okay.
They got into Apple, let's say, when it was really, really young, or Microsoft, or one of these big companies.
Right.
And it's built up to quite a big portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, does the new generation coming up know how to manage it? Manage this wealth? And then you throw in the properties, you throw in the superannuation, all this. What we have noticed over the years is people who suddenly come into wealth don't know what to do with it. It's a bit of a shock factor
too, unfortunately.
Exactly. It often is spent within 2 years and gone and nothing to show for it. And I think that's a real big concern is, does the next generation who's coming into this money, coming into this inheritance, know how to do that? And not only that, have the baby boomers set it up in such a way, their estate planning, that their wealth is protected from taxations or hidden taxations that are playing out. We do have a government who's wanting to bring in inheritance tax as well, right?
Again, a great government of the people, the working class.
The accountants are talking about it and believe it will come in and pass through. So there's a real big responsibility. One of the things that a lot of people don't think about too in their estate planning is, I didn't know this till about a year ago, but apparently when somebody passes away, the executor of the estate should wait probably about 9 months or so in case there's any challenges to the will.
Okay.
Now, this causes huge problems for somebody who's passed away who owned a business because you've got employees in that business and they still need to keep the business operating while this whole estate planning is worked on. So it's really important in that process of estate planning that there is a succession plan within that interim that allows the changeover of ownership, because sometimes in those wills I'll say, so-and-so buys them out or this sort of stuff. But there is that these families can keep going. And so it's very important in working with accountants and lawyers to have and think that forward, because nobody plans on passing away, right?
But it is inevitable.
It is the awkward conversation that needs to be had with mum and dad. It's, my dad, before he passed away, he sat down with me at one point, was telling me where important documents were and where the title deed to the house was and all that sort of stuff. It's a conversation as a child you don't want to have.
No, absolutely.
But you need to have it.
Yeah.
And the seniors need to be thinking about that succession plan as well.
So I have to give credit to your dad for doing that. It is a tough conversation, but it needs to be done. So going to the millennials who are inheriting or the share portfolios, houses and all that sort of stuff, and they don't know what to do with it, I really hope that the government doesn't get involved in that, because I still think the parents are the ones that need to be educating the kids on the family business, the family assets, how everything should operate. I really don't want the government getting involved in
Here's
that.
an issue. Right, okay. Baby boomers knew how to save and to wait and had patience. Okay, current people of the generations that have come after, and I'll include Gen X on that one as well.
No, you're impatient, not the rest of us. Only you.
I'm impatient. Gotcha. Like, okay, boomers, millennials particularly will say they want everything and they want it now. Okay, they want instant gratification. There's a psychological difference, and for investing, that is a very, 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 it's polar opposites with the boomers. And so when you're taking an asset from a boomer, it's going on to another generation. This is another reason why it's just frivolously thrown away. Yeah. I mean, I know someone who's going through this situation right now themselves, where their mum's passed away. There's a substantial amount of money because of an expensive property. Now, I would very much hope that they'll do the right thing and really invest that and get the right advice. Advice is everything. Get the education.
One of the things that a lot of people don't understand is the hidden taxes on death. And let me
Oh,
talk about some of those.
please.
Sorry, before you do, Derek, sorry, if I can just quickly jump in on inheritance taxes. So this argument is just for anybody who's on the left. They should look at what we already do and then tell me where the problem is, because I don't get it. Right, a lot of countries that say, okay, we're gonna take 40% of it and things like like they do in the UK. But what we're talking about here in Australia is so for those of you that don't know, if your parents bought a house for $10,000 back in 1950, and they've just passed away, and you've inherited the house and it's now worth 1.5 million. What the government does, if it's the family home, you've got a brief period of time in which you can sell it. But if it's an investment property that they bought, all the government does is that the government pretends as if you have owned the asset yourself since 1950. So you're going to pay capital gains tax essentially the same as your parents would have. What's the problem here? I mean, that's fair, is it not? You're not in a worse position than what your parents would have been, and you're not in a better position. You're in the same position that they would have been had they sold the asset off. So again, I don't understand what the problem is. I do see, like I was speaking to somebody recently that's got 2 children, and they said, "Oh well, look, I'm going to leave one of them a family home, and I'm going to leave the other one my superannuation account because they're both worth about the same." I said, "Well, actually, no, they're not. Because one of them is going to be taxed and one of them's not. One of them is going to be at a long-term capital gains tax rate, the other one isn't." So, these are the sorts of things where, again, I think that we should be asking government to give us fairness. People in similar economic positions should be contributing similar amounts. We don't need the added complication of inheritance taxes. If you want to increase taxes, just increase the GST. If that's what you're trying to do. If you think that 27% of the GDP is too low, if you think Australians would benefit from having more government spending, then go to the election and say, look, we would like to get more GDP off the country, so therefore we're going to increase GST. And by doing so, you could decrease all the other taxes and you'd still increase the take. Don't make it more complicated.
The most honest thing that the politicians could do is just drop public spending by 25%, because let's be absolutely frank, it is overstated, it is ridiculous. The amount of taxpayers' money that is just thrown in the toilet is embarrassing.
I love the word "pissed up the wall," but anyway.
Okay, we'll go with that.
But that's just talking about at a federal level. Has anybody looked at the financial? I used to live in the city of Stirling. Has anybody looked at how much money they've got? They've got $2 billion in the bank.
I know.
Yeah. So I want to just quickly jump back onto inheritance tax. So I think people, if the next election is going to be close, because this is a really a policy that's close to the heart of Adam Bandt. So he's going to use that at the next federal election, that if the Labor needs the Greens vote to form government, I hate to say it, I think that's going to be one of the first things, that's going to be one of the deals that they're going to make. You bring out the inheritance tax, we'll let you form government.
I think you're right.
And I think that there's not much I think everyday Australians can do to stop that, unless they totally skip Labor and the Greens on their voting ballot.
It's time to think differently.
It really is. And it's time to wake up to a vote for the Greens is a vote for socialism. It's a vote for against humanity. It has got nothing to do with the
parties have changed, people. They aren't what mum and dad used to vote for. And that's what you've got to recognize.
That's one comment that used to shit me to tears when I was on the polling booths is you'd go to hand out how to vote card and people go, "Oh no, I'm voting for Labor." And like every now and then I'd say, "Oh, just do you mind telling me why?" And they go, "Oh, my grandfather voted for Labor."
They're not the party that grandfather voted for.
Like, is that anyway? So we do have a question.
Yeah,
but the thing is, Travis, Aaron, and Derek, even if everyone votes for the coalition in the next election, that doesn't mean this issue goes away. The Labor and the Greens will eventually win, and where's that leave us? So you may as well already be planning ahead because you know that this is coming. Eventually, they'll get it through one way or another.
Now, the comments come up. Travis, do you want to read that?
I heard a lot of boomers are spending big instead of focusing on inheritance. Thanks, Mum.
Yep.
doing a around the world trip on a cruise up to the Antarctica to
Um,
see some polar bears.
Yeah.
So
Look,
she's near Greenland at the moment. So
well, there you
just so
go.
people know.
I'm seeing a lot of parents doing that.
But
I mean,
it's-
you know what blows me?
Fair's
Okay.
fair. Mum's dream has always been to see a polar bear.
Okay.
So because they didn't see any on the Arctic Circle, they actually had to go to the rubbish tip in Greenland because apparently they go into the rubbish tip and start attacking people and that. So they have to kill them on the site so they don't kill people.
Oh, that's a
So-
beautiful image. Thanks for that, mate.
Yeah,
I really
you're welcome.
appreciate it. Jeez.
I won't say.
Look,
how much
I want people to enjoy their lives, and I actually want people to retire and have some fun with it, you know. But at the same time, I don't know. I was raised, and it's very important to me to leave an inheritance to my children, right? So,
Well-
you know, whether it be insurance, whether it be assets, whatever it happens to be,
You know, it was so
can't be that
important.
anymore.
It's so important to just even have a will in place.
Yeah,
Right. I'll give you a case study of where somebody didn't have a will. We used to hear the story in the law firm that I used to work at. And it was this, is that there was a situation in Perth, Australia, where the wife inherited, basically what happened is, gentleman passed away. They had no kids. And he had two surviving brothers
okay,
that basically they hadn't spoken to each other in 20 years.
all right.
Okay. They didn't have a will, this couple. Right. So what she basically had to do, because she did not have a will,
Yep.
the laws in West Australia were that the brothers were entitled to 25% of the estate now, because there was no will because of what they died in testate.
Okay.
So basically, this poor lady had a choice. She either could get a loan to pay these boys out,
Yep.
or sell the house. And unfortunately, she lost her house. She had to sell it to these guys to inherit what should have been hers.
Unbelievable.
If she'd had a will in place, would
Yep.
not have been an issue. Right.
Okay.
That doesn't
So
make
this is-
sense. If she was married to him, then she's his next of kin. She should have inherited everything by default.
Well, that's not how it played out, according to lawyers. So I used to work with
Yeah.
Shaq.
I don't know. I've also seen.
It could have. It
wills-
may not have been joint tenancy on the title as well. It could have been just in his name. I don't know.
Yeah, but even if it was just in his name, if they were legally married and they'd been legally married for a long time, then she's the next of kin.
That's what I thought. But hey, look, I've seen wills disappear and new wills appear. I've seen government departments accept that as being normal when it's not normal. I've seen government departments accept wills that have no signatures or no witnesses on them. So, you know, it all comes down to the criminal that's in the office with the stamp.
Basically, it's important to have a will. in
Damn
place,
straight. I totally agree.
especially if you have children as well. You don't want the state deciding where your kids, who looks
couldn't agree
after your
more.
kids, right?
So we do have a follow-up question here. The Conservatives only offer a small break from the contentious path of
Continuous.
continuous path of progressivism. I need new glasses, so it's like really hard to see TV from here. That's why I'm squinting. It's called fossilitis.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's a really good point. It's kind of like, we kind of get intermission. Like, okay, I've got people, and I won't go down the story. I'll just briefly go and touch on it. But okay, my life was absolutely changed, just hot and cold. My life was very, very badly damaged because of the difference between, and I saw my life when it came to family court. We'll talk about that. Family court, I had rights under a Conservative government and I had no rights under Labor, right? Okay, basically simple as that, okay? So I went from being a father and recognized as a father under the Liberal Party, and in the Labor Party, I was seen as scum of the earth and disappear and go away and just pay money and you know, just dissolve as a human being. So I lived that and I saw the contrast. So for me, voting really matters, and it matters to everything in your life and everyday things in your life. And you know, your family is to have that difference when the Gillard government changes things back in 2010, and to see the progressive, and it's not, I hate the word progressive, it's regressive. Okay, we're going backwards. We're going absolutely backwards. You're taking rights away from people. And that's what the Labor, or in this case in the US, the Democrats, this is what they're doing. They're taking rights away from people and telling us it's for our own good. Yeah.
Yep, people are rising up though. I mean, I think the beauty is that people are getting educated now,
Which is a great thing.
slowly waking up,
Thanks for waking everybody up.
slowly happening. And I think it's actually too interesting to see some of the messages even slipping into the mainstream media a little bit, little by little. It's starting to trickle in a little. And you go, that's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Why is that one popped
If
up?
they start telling the truth, gee, we won't have to exist anymore as Edge. What will we do? But yeah,
Well, there's the question, isn't it? If you could pick a country to go to where you think the system is, the best that you can find, what country would it be?
I'm already looking at Russia and Poland at the moment. Russia and Poland have I have the best rights in those two countries.
Yeah, you don't have any rights in Russia. The USSR has a much better Bill of Rights and Constitution than the United States of America, but I can tell you that in practice, that wasn't quite the case. Look, for me, I very much enjoyed Dubai, but I get it that's not perfect. Switzerland, everyone knows I very much enjoy Switzerland. Monaco is another one. But I think people, they've got to demand what they actually want. I think that we have to recognise that government services in a advanced society, government's going to provide services or at least provide funding for those services, which means that they need to get revenue from somewhere. But we've got to demand that they stop interfering with our lives. Just be an administrative body. You don't need the rest of this shit.
So message, don't worry, Aaron, you are safe. You won't have to worry about the media telling the truth anytime soon. So.
I appreciate that. Got a little invested in what we're doing here, so I think we need to be around for a long time into the future.
Me personally, I always like Vietnam. So anytime we've had to deal with the Vietnamese government over there, it's not against the law for someone to bribe an official. It's against the law for an official to receive the bribe. Right. So what happens is when you need something to be done, so you pay the government fee, which goes to the government to run the government, and then you pay the person a fee to actually do what they're meant to be doing. And if they can't do what you've asked them to do, they actually give it back to you. I think it's a great
so they
system.
give your bribe back to you. Is that what you used to say?
They give you your bribe back.
So you just chuck a carrot and you're like, yeah, you can have your bribe back.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant because if, let's say they ask for a bribe to do something, they say, yeah, we're done, do it. And they turn around and say, no, you're not doing it. You're not getting your money back. Because it's not against law for you to bribe an official. It's just accepted across the board. Even legislatively, there's no law against it. Okay. You can then go to the police, say, I bribed that guy and he didn't do what he told me to do. So then they go and arrest that guy for accepting a bribe. Well, I think that's awesome. Can you imagine bribing a politician in Australia? They're taking, political donation in Australia. They're not doing what you've asked them to do. You've got no hope, no recourse, nothing. See, in Vietnam, you can turn around and go to the cops and they'll go to jail the politician.
Well, that's what we should be demanding as taxpayers. I alluded to that earlier with the code of conduct. We should be able to go down to the police. Imagine if we had to trust those people. But imagine if we could just ring 000, say, listen, the Prime Minister and all the opposition, the whole lot of them, just arrest them, please, because they've ripped me off. I've been paying taxes my whole life and they haven't done shit. I'd love to see that. I think we should. I think we should have the same system.
The sheriffs are doing.
Yeah, I think so. I considered suing my ex-wife for breach of promise. Let's face it. It's the legal system, and
until death do us part. Did you really want to live with that until death do us part?
No. Well, I would, but under different circumstances.